Welcome to the 500th episode of this program. To commemorate this landmark, let's have a hard-hitting, prophetic show on the voice of resistance.
Those who forsake the law praise the wicked. Those who uphold the law resist them. Welcome to the Voice of Resistance. Here's your host, Randall Terry.
What do the prophet Jeremiah, Donald Sterling, the owner of the Clippers, Michael Sam, the homosexual NFL player, Derek Ward, Don Jones of the Miami Dolphins, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, what do they all have in common? Well, I'm going to hopefully weave a tapestry together for you today that puts not just these people in focus, but you and me. How we respond, what we are doing as individuals, as our nation continues its slow and steady descent into hell. For those of you who have small children, I want to let you know that this will certainly not be a child-friendly program. So if you want to tape this, if you're watching at home, watch it later. If you're watching online, scoot the children out of the room. I have small children, and I wouldn't want them to see this program today. But we have to talk, and we have to talk frankly, and we have to talk honestly. Donald Sterling, the 80-year-old racist who is the current owner of the Clippers as they try and force him to sell the franchise, he is a degenerate. All right, he's a very wealthy degenerate. He's an immoral man. He's an unethical man. He's clearly a racist. Okay? I don't like him at all. But his comments, as repugnant as they were, are not, I repeat, not what I want to focus on today. And by the way, for you folks from the Center for Southern Poverty, the Law Study, and People for the American Way, and Jezebel, and all the rest of you ethically misguided, morally degenerate people, for those of you who don't know, I have two black children. One of them has left this life in a horrible head-on collision. My daughter is alive. She has children of her own. And I adopted and raised two children of African American descent and know the difficulties of a blended family and have felt the glares of people who don't think that it's appropriate. I don't care. There's only one race. It's the human race. All of us come from Adam and Eve. We all have the same blood flowing in our veins, and we have the same blood of the Son of God who died for us. All right? But I want to focus for a minute on a bigger picture regarding Donald Sterling, the DeVos family, the people who started Amway, who are multi-billionaires who own the Orlando Magic. I want to focus on Ruth Bader Ginsburg and hopefully tie them all together for you in such a way that shows what is at stake and what your duty is and my duty is in this exact moment of time. Okay? If you are in a quarrel with somebody in your house, a family member, a neighbor, over what should be for dinner, or whether or not it's good to eat certain foods because of how they affect your body, or where a picture should be on the wall, and there's a fire in the basement that is going to consume your home and consume you, and you dismiss that and focus on these other ancillary things, if you do that, if I do that, then we play the fool. And our moral compass, our discernment is completely messed up. And that's what I want to use this show for today, to bring focus. So, Donald Sterling is a slob, okay? He really is. But he was hanging out with what media people call a trollopy woman, 29-year-old, someone 51 years old younger than him, who illegally taped his conversation. Illegally taped his conversation, a private conversation where his idiocy was just rolling out of his mouth. The evidence is probably not admissible in a court of law, right? But in the court of public opinion, they want this man destroyed. They want him destroyed. So let's start with square one. Are you willing to live without protest in a world where your private conversations can be recorded with any number of our godless devices, as I call them? Are you willing to live in constant fear, not just of the NSA spying on you, but anybody, and then taking a private conversation that you have, in maybe you were drinking, maybe you were joking, maybe you were angry, maybe you were set up like Sterling was clearly set up. Are you and I willing to live in that world without protest, without saying, no, what Sterling said was despicable, but it is also despicable what this woman did, and it's despicable that the media made a heyday out of it, and it's despicable that the NBA has tried to destroy this man. There is a level of vile hypocrisy here, misogynist hypocrisy, murderous hypocrisy that is literally despicable and disgusting in the eyes of heaven, and perhaps comedic in the eyes of hell. I'll tell you about it in the next segment, but I'll just say two words to set the table for you. You ready? Planned Parenthood.
You have two choices. I mean, you can try to raise your children by design, or you will raise them by default. There are no perfect parents. We're going to get it wrong sometimes. If we have a plan, we've got a better chance of getting it right in the long run.
There is something deep within the heart of every human being that longs for parental acceptance and approval. When does a boy become a man?
Get a group of guys around and ask them that question.
I don't think there's a certain age. Some men stay boys their whole life.
I would say, 16, 18 years old.
Wow, that's a good question.
When they get bar mitzvah?
Well, I think when he has a child. So I just became at 56, 56 years old.
Without the power of the Holy Spirit changing us and giving us power over our sin, we can't hope to be the dads that our kids need us to be.
As we watched Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, any number of people weigh in and make hay out of Donald Sterling's despicable comments, the level of hypocrisy was so astounding. It was as if we had a group of people standing around discussing the emperor's new clothes while the emperor is naked. And that's a part of what is really at stake here, people. Where are the little boys, the little girls, the adults with a thinking brain who will stand up and say, wait, stop? Planned Parenthood. Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, these people support black genocide. Now, I'm going to read to you a quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg to give you the framework of what I'm discussing, okay? And how completely out of balance and how vile this hypocrisy is. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, about 5 years ago, did an interview with the New York Times. And in it, they talked about child killing, okay? Here's what she said. Frankly, I had thought that at the time Roe was decided, there was concern about population growth, and particularly growth in populations that we don't want to have too many of. So that Roe was going to be then set up for Medicaid funding of abortion. Now, so that you understand the background here, she thought that Medicaid should in fact pay for child killing, And the reason was, or one of the reasons that would be good, was because it would target black babies, okay? Statistically, black children in fatherless homes have a much higher chance of growing up to be a criminal element, all right? So she says that. She says, well, there was concern. We didn't want a growth in populations that we don't have too many of. We don't have too many of. Who's she talking about? This harkens back to a decision of the Supreme Court in the 1920s. Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote an opinion in which they decided to sterilize a 17-year-old girl who they deemed was not all there ethically and that she was morally delinquent. And evidently she was running around, all right, sexually. And Oliver Wendell Holmes said, it is better for all the world if instead of waiting to execute degenerate offspring for crime or letting them starve for their imbecility, society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of our current Supreme Court justices, was talking about the same thing. And she said, we don't want to have these populations. So I want you to picture this white elitist woman with her white elitist friends in New York City at the time of Roe versus Wade, and when they were debating whether or not Medicaid should pay for the murder of these babies in these populations that we don't want to have too many of. Just picture them all together talking about the statistics of crime and how many of these children, like Oliver Wendell Holmes said, we're going to have to execute their degenerate offspring later anyway, right? It's better off for the whole world if, rather than waiting for all this, let's just prevent them from continuing their kind, okay? These people are racists. The very people who are condemning Donald Sterling, black and white, male and female, these white, godless elitists who believe in mass murder, would happily kill and have happily killed millions of African American babies, the populations that they don't want, so that we don't have to imprison them or execute them later. This is who we're dealing with. And so when they attack Donald Sterling for his immoral, unethical, racist comments, they wag a finger that is drenched in human blood. They are despicable, vile, mass murder promoting hypocrites of the highest order who want bread and circuses, all right? We have this elite of all races who entertain us, and we can never speak against them, and if someone does, then we must destroy them. But let's kill the little ones. Kill early, kill often. Why wait to spend $38,000 a year incarcerating a young black criminal when for $400 of Medicaid tax money, you can snuff out his life before he becomes the degenerate that we know he will be? Yeah, Donald Sterling is vile, but you people, white elitist people who are trying to destroy him, and you support Planned Parenthood, your day of judgment is coming. And by the way, this isn't just about Donald Sterling. I'm going to tell you what it's about in our next segment. Ready for two more words? Michael Sam. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last. As I watched, as perhaps you have, the Donald Sterling affair unfold, I sat and I watched and I said, this is not about Donald Sterling. This is not even about racism. This is about the homosexual militants. That's what it's about. And within days of this debacle breaking, it happened. Perhaps you follow that. Michael Sam was drafted by the St. Louis Rams, and when he was drafted, 7th round, he turned on national television and kissed his boyfriend. All right? This is disgusting. It's immoral. It's perverse. What they're doing, the lifestyle that they're involved in, is abominable. Okay? That's what the scriptures call it. It is an abomination. It's self-destructive. It is a sin that the ancient church calls a mortal sin that will drag the souls of those who participate in it into outer darkness forever, okay? We call it hell. And please God, please redeem Michael Sam. I pray for his soul. Please set him free from this lifestyle. All of us have sins. We all have things that attract us, evil behaviors, okay? At one level or another, thought, word, deed, or things that we failed to do, all of us are sinners, and all of us can receive the mercy of Jesus Christ. But we cannot change the rules. And that's what this is all about. Changing the rules, defying, despising, and attempting to discard the laws of God. So Michael Sam kisses his boyfriend on national television. Children are watching. Families are watching. All right? And this is despicable. I don't want my sons, my daughters, little children seeing this. I don't want anyone's sons or daughters seeing it. There are little children who don't even understand where babies come from. And now you got to explain what's going on here. It's just wrong, okay? If you're trapped in a perverse lifestyle, at least keep it out of sight. Don't flaunt it. Don't rub people's face in it. So Derek Ward, who has played for several teams, Super Bowl champion, he tweets that this was no bueno, that this was wrong. He gets death threats for saying that Michael Sam kissing his boyfriend on the lips was that he's getting death threats for saying that this was wrong. Donald Jones, who plays for the Miami Dolphins, when he saw it, tweeted OMG, which means oh my God, and then he said that this is horrible. It is horrible. It was disgusting. But what did the Miami Dolphins do? Cowards, pillars of jello, slaves to the new politically correct plantation. What did they do? They fined him. They suspended him from playing until he went to training. That was their word. Sensitivity training. You need to learn to check your Christianity in at the locker room. You need to learn that the times they are a-changing. And if you hold to a biblical worldview, a Christian worldview that would say that something like this is horrible, we have to fine you. We have to suspend you. We have to re-educate you. Big Brother has got to get down in there into the very core of your soul and make sure that you never say something like this again. It's despicable. The Dolphins could have said, he's his own man. He can say what he wants. We were all fairly shocked that this happened and it was inappropriate. And they could have said anything, but no. They set the precedent that we are going to break the back politically, economically, with the way they make their living, professionally. We're going to break their back if they dare to hold to this view. And so right after this happened with Michael Sam on PBS NewsHour, on CNN, what did they have? They had talking heads talking about, guess who? The DeVos family, the people who started Amway. Because the DeVos family owns the Orlando Magic. And they were opining, in effect saying, look, if we're going to force Sterling to sell the Clippers because of his racist comments, why aren't we discussing forcing the DeVos family to sell the Orlando Magic? Because they've donated to all of these organizations that are fighting against homosexual marriage and homosexual rights. The DeVos family are part of the archaic past. And if we're going to break Donald Sterling, let's get the DeVos family in line and break them. In our next segment, I want to bring this all the way back around to you and to the prophet Jeremiah. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. Well, this brings to an end our 500th episode. And as you can tell, I'm a little bit riled up. I want to draw your attention to the weeping prophet in the scriptures. His name was Jeremiah. He preached to the Israelites for nearly 3 decades, warning them of the judgment of God that was going to come upon them because of child killing, and because of the sexual immorality and idolatry that was rampant in Israel at the time. They mocked him, they laughed at him, they abused him physically, they arrested him, lowered him down into mud. But he held the course. Israel ultimately, Judah was destroyed by the Babylonians, the temple was destroyed, and the people of the land were dispersed for 70 years. The Babylonian captivity, it's called. It was a horrible, tragic time for the nation of Israel. We are somewhere on a path that is tragic and that will result in a lot of very bad things happening for our country. So the question is, how far will the descent go? And then who will rebuild, or what will we become? Or let me ask it in a different way. What will our children and our grandchildren have? And the answer to that question depends in part upon you and me. What will we say now? What will we do now that helps stop the slide into the jaws of hell, that helps stop America from morphing into some horrific Pompeii and Sodom and Gomorrah? What kind of record will we leave for heaven, for the day of judgment, like Jeremiah did? What will we do to leave a standard of righteous truth for our children to cling to and to say, no, this is what is right, and this is what a family is, and this is how sacred human life is, and this is what the Christian religion teaches? It's time for us to weigh ourselves in the light of all that's going on and then say, God, use me, please, Lord, so that when we face Him, we will have at least been able to give an account for ourselves that we did and said the right thing.